and welcome to Crochet with Siska. In today's video, I'm going to be showing us how to make this headband with earmuffs for your little one to help, drown out noise. If you are in a noisy place or you are in a place with a loud sound that would actually disturb your child, what you're going to need is an Alice band, as you can see here. So something like this. You're going to need something like this. You're going to need your yarn, and of course you're going to need your crochet hook. So for this tutorial, I'll be using a 3mm crochet hook. So what we are going to do right now is to measure the length of this headband, and if I'm measuring this, I have around 14 inches, but I will just go on to do 14 and have up to 15 since what we are working with is sort of bent. I'm going to be doing my foundation chain to that length, and this is how I like to start my foundation chain. I just twist my yarn around my crochet hook like this, and then I'm going to begin to do my chains. So here's my first chain, here is my second chain. I'll do this to the length that I measured, which is 14 and a half, 15 inches. I think I'll just go with 15 inches to be on the safe side. So 73 chains gave me around 15 inches. What I'm going to do right now is to move to the second stitch from my hook, and I'm going to be doing single crochet stitches along this foundational chain for my first row. So I insert my hook into the second stitch from the hook. I pull my yarn through, I yarn over and pull through the 2 loops. So that's my first single crochet stitch. I move to the next stitch, insert my hook, pull my yarn through, I yarn over and I pull through the 2 loops. So I'm just going to continue to do single crochet stitches along my foundation chain. At the last stitch, I'll just insert my hook in there, and then I'm going to pull my yarn through just like this and do the last single crochet stitch for the first row. Then what I'm going to do right now is to chain 1. I'm going to turn my work and I'm going to move to the 3rd stitch from the hook. Okay, so here's my chain 1, here is the first stitch. I'm going to move to the 3rd stitch and I'll begin to do single crochet stitches. Okay, so basically after each row, I chain 1, move to the 3rd stitch from the hook, and continue to do single crochet stitches. What we are doing right now is to do this single crochet stitch row such that it will wrap around the headband. So what I've done can only cover the top. I'm going to need to do it to cover the headband totally. So I ended up needing to do about 8 rows in order for me to actually cover this headband. So this is what I have for the fabric piece that is going to cover the headband. What I'm going to do right now is to do a whip stitch. I'm going to show you how to do that, to join these 2 ends together so that we can have sort of like a long casing to insert this headband into. The first thing I'm going to do is to pull my yarn through. Just pull it through like this. I'm going to fold the fabric that I've crocheted into 2. So just like this, and then I'll grab my yarn needle. I've already passed some yarn through, and what we are going to be doing is passing this crochet needle through the stitch on this side and the stitch on this other side. So I just pass my needle through here, come right here at the beginning. So I pass it through and I pull it like this. Then I'm going to move to the next stitch, move to the next one right across. All right, I'll pull my yarn. So just like this, I'll just keep passing it and pulling it through. Okay, and I make sure that it is actually tight to properly secure it. So I just want to pass this underneath just to secure my end. So just like this, okay. So I'll move to the next stitch now, pass it through the top of the stitch, then I'll pass it through the next space here and pull my yarn through. I'm just going to continue to do that until I get to the end. A whip stitch is preferable because it will not make the part that you are stitching very bulky. It is going to appear smooth. So now that I've gotten to the end of this, what I'm going to do next is to pass my needle through the end again. So I'll pass it through like this, and then I'm going to bring it into this part so we can have it secured at this end. And what I'm going to do right now is to cut my yarn. I will use this part to create a knot for extra security. Okay, so I'll just go on to create a knot here and repeat the same thing at this other end, just like this. So now that we have this, what we're going to do next is to insert the headband into it. And I'm going to insert the headband in such a way that where I did the whip stitch is going to be in the middle on the inside of the headband. So this is how we're just going to insert it. It's pretty easy, right? So just like this, okay, and push your headband through it until everything is inside this tubing or casing. So after inserting it into it, this is what it looks like. Now what we want to do next is to make this piece, okay, this is where we are going to be inserting this part into to create the earmuffs. So still with my 3mm crochet hook, I'm going to create a magic ring. Okay, so this is how I like to start, and I'll just open this place up a bit, and then I'll pull my yarn through it. So in this ring we are going to do 12 double crochet stitches. So I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook into that circle, pull my yarn through, okay, yarn over and pull through 2 loops, yarn over again and pull through 2 loops. So right here is my first double crochet stitch. I'm going to do this one more time. I yarn over, insert my hook, pull my yarn through, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over again and pull through 2 loops. So I'm going to do this 10 more times, so I have 12 double crochet stitches in this circle. So what I'm going to do next is to tighten this up by pulling the yarn at the bottom, and we are going to close this off at the top of the first double crochet stitch. So I'm just going to do a slip stitch, come right there. It's going to be somewhere around this part, okay? So you can make sure to count to be sure that you are doing your slip stitch at the top of the first double crochet stitch. So I'm going to do my slip stitch right there, and then I'm going to chain 1. So we have done our magic ring, as you can see. Now we are going to start our first round, and what I'm going to do is to skip the stitch closest to my chain 1. Okay, so I'm going to skip that stitch. I'm going to move to this stitch right here, and I'm going to be doing 2 single crochet in each stitch. So to do a single crochet stitch, I'm just going to insert my hook, pull my yarn through, yarn over and pull through 2 loops. So I'm going to do another one in that same space, insert my hook, pull my yarn through, yarn over and pull through 2 loops. So I'm going to repeat this for the next 11 stitches. I should be having a total of 24 single crochet stitches for the first round. So after doing the 24th single crochet stitch, I'm going to close this round off by doing a slip stitch at the top of the first single crochet at the first row or the first round. So I inserted my hook. I'm going to pull this yarn through and pull through this loop. The next thing I'm going to do is to move to round 2, and what I'm going to do at this point is to chain 1, and after chaining 1, I skip the stitch closest to my chain 1, okay, which is this stitch right here, and I'm going to move to the next stitch. Now what we're going to do in this next stitch is to do 2 single crochet. So I insert my hook under that space, under that stitch, pull my yarn through, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, and in that same space I'm going to insert my hook, pull my yarn through, yarn over and pull through 2 loops. Now we're going to move to the next stitch, and in this next stitch we will be doing just 1 single crochet stitch. So we're basically going to be alternating between 2 single crochet stitches in one stitch and 1 single crochet in the next. So just continue to do 2 single crochet, 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, 1 single crochet, and you have to do that for a total of 24 stitches, so that at the end of the day your stitch count for your round 2 will become 36 stitches. So I'll move to the next stitch and continue with 2 single crochet in that stitch and follow up with 1 single crochet in the next stitch. So I've done the 36 single crochet stitches. Now your 36th stitch should be 1 single crochet in that last stitch. Okay, so now that we have done that, I'm going to close this off by doing a slip stitch in the first stitch. That's the first single crochet for this round 2. So I'm just going to come right there, insert my hook, pull my yarn through and pull through this loop. So now that we have done the slip stitch, we are going to move to round 3 and we are going to chain 1. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to begin to do single crochet stitches starting from the stitch closest to my chain 1. Okay, so I'm going to insert my hook in there, pull my yarn through, yarn over and pull through 2 loops. So remember that for this round we have 36 stitches. For round 3 we are going to have 36 stitches as well, because we're going to be doing a single crochet in each stitch. So I've done 1 right here. I'm going to repeat this 35 more times to have 36 single crochet stitches for round 3. So after doing the 36th single crochet stitch, what I'm going to do next is to close our round 3 off by doing a slip stitch at the top of the first single crochet stitch at round 3. Okay, so I insert my hook, pull my yarn through and pull through this loop, and then I'm going to chain 1. So what I've done for round 3 is what I'm going to repeat for rounds 4 to 7. Okay, I chain 1, start stitching from the stitch closest to my chain 1 and do 36 single crochet stitches, do my slip stitch, chain 1 and do 36 single crochet stitches, making sure not to skip the stitch closest to my chain 1. So I'll be doing this for rows 4 to 7 in order for us to end up with this cupped shape that we can see right here. So after completing this earmuff part, this is what it looks like. I'm going to go on to cut a long piece of yarn, okay, from this part. Instead of cutting a small piece here, I'll make it really long because we're going to use that later on. So now that we have this done, what I'm going to do is to pull my yarn through. So here is my long piece of yarn as I explained. We're going to need this part. So the next thing we want to do is to crochet the cover for this part, which is what you can see here. And that part is very simple. You just follow the same process for crocheting this cup or this earmuff part, and all you need to do is stop at row 4. That is where you're going to end. It's typically the same thing as this one, only you are going to stop at row 4. So when I have that done, I'll come show you guys what we are going to do next. Meanwhile, go on to hide your yarn, especially at this part, because by the time you join these 2 parts together like what we have here, it's not going to be easy for you to hide your yarn. Okay, so I'll go ahead and do that now and show us what we're going to do next. So after crocheting the cover for the earmuffs, this is what we have. Now you will notice that the edge is sort of a bit bent. Okay, so the way it is how we are going to place it right on top of the cup and stitch together. And we're going to be doing a single crochet stitch to close this cup with this cover that we have made here. What I'm going to do first of all is to insert my hook through the cup, insert my hook through the cover. Okay, and what I'm going to do at this point is to pull my yarn through. So just like this, I'm going to pull my yarn through, and then I'll begin to do single crochet stitches across. So I insert my hook into the next stitch, insert my hook into the next stitch right here, pull my yarn through, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Okay, I'll do the same thing right here, insert my hook into the next stitch, insert my hook also into the next stitch at the cover, pull my yarn through, yarn over and pull through 2 loops. So I'm going to continue to repeat this, okay, until I get somewhere close to the end, but just enough opening so that we'll be able to insert our stuffing and insert this part right into the space that we are going to leave here. After crocheting up to this point, what I'm going to do is to insert my stuffing through this part. Okay, so I'll just do that little by little until I have this, really stuffed in there. And once it is all right, I'm going to close it up a bit more. Okay, because I feel this part is too wide, I'll just close it a bit more before we will go on to insert this part. So once I have this amount of space left right here, I'm going to pull my yarn through like this. Okay, so I left a little bit of yarn to use to stitch around by the time I insert the headband. So I'm just going to create a space in between the stuffing, and I'm going to apply some glue in there. So this is the glue that I'm using for this tutorial. So I'm just going to carefully pour in some glue. So what I'm going to do right now is to insert this part of the headband right into where I applied the glue. Okay, so I'll just insert it in there. You actually need to insert your headband into the earmuff deep inside, such that what you have left is going to fit the head of the child you're making this for without the earmuffs falling off. You can do that, push it deep inside to size, or you can actually cut the plastic to size. Either way, it's okay. Now what we want to do is to stitch the headband to the earmuff so that it is not wobbly at all right? What I'm going to do to make this possible is to do a whip stitch, where I'm going to pick a stitch from the cover of the earmuff and pick a stitch at the main earmuff itself, and I'm going to pull my yarn through. Now the next thing that we're going to do is to pick a stitch at the cover of the earmuff. Now you have to pick a stitch from the headband itself, okay? And then when you do that, you have to go right through a stitch on the main earmuff fabric. So that is what I'm going to do for this part. And by the time I get to this part, okay, I just pick a stitch from the earmuff and then pick a stitch from the headband and continue to do the whip stitch, okay? So I'll continue to do that across this part. Now, once I get to this end here, I'm going to repeat what I did for this part by picking a stitch across both the earmuff, the headband, and the cover of the earmuff. And when I get to the inside, I'll just be stitching the headband to the cover of the earmuff. So that is what I'm going to do. So after stitching, I went on to hide my yarn, and this is what our headband earmuff looks like. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, kindly give us a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, turn on the bell so you get updates when I post new videos, and I'll be seeing you guys in my next tutorial. Bye.